I mean, you're beautiful and all, but you're not that beautiful.
Hello, gorgeous people. Welcome or welcome back. So, Nori received so many votes under the Elina video, I wasn't expecting her to get this much love, honestly. And it's going to be the first ever mermaid custom on this channel, so thank you to all the Fairytopia fans for voting. I'm gonna be using these two girlies for Nori. I contemplated a lot and thought about so many ways I could make the tail movable, but all the methods that I could think of or saw others use would compromise on the end result that I've envisioned. I just wouldn't have movement in her tail without having to compromise on the visual aesthetic of the tail. So I thought to have articulation on her upper body so that the tail won't be a compromised looking effort. So that's what we're going for. The head, I'll use Barbie's, and the body, this Disney Store Snow White. The skin tone match isn't perfect, but it's very close and we can work with that. I will begin with body modification, which is looking a bit awkward on screen, I must say. I took off both the legs with a cutter and pliers, and then I'll make a hole through which the tail wire will go. At first, I made the twisted wire shorter by accident, then I redid it and made it a bit longer than needed. I'm keeping it about 8.5 inches long because we all want justice for Nori's tail. That's why we're all here. While Snow White is like, oh, I don't want to be a mermaid. I have decided the pose that I want her in, and I've bent the wire just like that. Now I will fill the base shape with foil and I will try to tightly shape it together. I've made patterns for the fin, the outfit. For her bodice, darker blue pieces around the neck, I'll use this satin, which I'm giving a watered down glue wash to give it some stiffness. After that, I will dye it using acrylic color washes. After it dried, I drew the patterns. I will be using the same Elina petal method that I used, in which I sandwich two pieces of fabric with this thin foam in between. This gives a very neat and beautiful 3D effect. I will cut the foam a bit smaller than the actual pattern so that I will be able to glue the edges of the fabric together. I don't apply thick layers of glue, otherwise it bleeds to the fabric and it does not look good. So thin, even layers do the job perfectly. Now the bodice. It had just a few stitches, so I did that off camera. To make this look even more skin tight, what I'm doing is I'll be applying a layer of watered down white glue while it's on the body, so when it'll dry, the shape will become more stable. Now I'll work on the skirt. I have this blue organza which I will use after doubling it by ironing water soluble fabric in the middle. For the edges, to make them more controllable, I will sew them with this embroidery wire, then I'll cover it up by hand finishing the edges with silk embroidery thread. This will help me in achieving some folds, some controlled folds in both skirt layers. Here is the almost finished skirt. I'll just sew the waistband. So I thought I'd embroider the motifs on her bodice, but when I tested it and it wasn't looking good, I just thought I would go with acrylic paints. I also gave the bodice a little bit of a gradient effect and made the skirt a bit more saturated as well. For the pink details on the top part of the bodice, I have this perfect matching flower slash star thingy. I applied the darker blue pieces with glue while the bodice was on the body, and then I glued the pink elements as well. I'll also glue the skirt. I didn't sew the skirt directly because the waistband is visible on her design, so I had to keep it that way. For her tail fin, I'll make it exactly as I make wings for my dolls here. 2 layers of clear plastic sheets. Then I'll draw the pattern, cut it out, and leave some area on the top part so that the tail can be attached with the fin. I'll paste iridescent organza with white glue on both sides, and after it dries, I'll give it a wash of thinned down glue on both sides to make it more intact. Then I'll cut the shape out and to paint on it later. Okay, so fun part, the clay. I'm using my homemade air dry clay, and no, it's not the damn cold porcelain. It's the calcium carbonate clay, the one that you can buy at stores as well. But here's why I'm using the self-made version. The ones you buy at stores are very weak when they dry, and you can't really rely on them for proper sculpted artworks. I first made the basic filling to let it dry so that it's rock hard and that I can work on further details. So while it's drying, I'll prep the head since no wasting time, and I worked on the rerouting process and tail sculpt simultaneously. Kinda had me in tatters though. If your doll heads are sticky because of the glue seepage and stuff, use talcum powder on the inside and outside so you can remove the plugs easily, otherwise it gets very sticky. I will remove the factory paint with nail polish remover and paint the head blue, and I started rehairing her off camera, and in the meantime the tail has also dried. I've made this at home using the recipe from another YouTuber called Melita Art and have tested it before starting this project. I'm so very confident to work with this since it dries stronger and is very forgiving while sculpting. I will proceed to add more clay on the uneven areas and that crack below the abdomen. What I do is I take the required amount of clay, brush the area with some water, and then apply the clay, then smooth it out with a tool, and again brush it with a damp brush to further smooth the surface. After these corrections dried, I sanded the tail thoroughly to achieve a nice canvas for the sculpted designs of the tail. I draw the designs, and I did use some artistic liberty here. Since the tail is longer, I drew the designs stretching a bit further than they originally are. The drawing part is done. I'll be placing these jewel embellishments on the tail as well after all of the tail job is done. Now to sculpt the designs, I again dampen the area with a wet brush, then apply some clay, and then work on it with the tool and brush it occasionally as I go. On the front side, I'm keeping the designs more raised. On the back, I'll keep them flatter. This was a long process actually. I would sculpt a small section of the tail and then leave it to dry and then work on the reroute, making individual hair plugs. By the way, the hair is donated by a LOL-OMG doll. Then I reroute, sculpt the tail, let it dry, reroute again, and all this process made my fingers hurt so bad it was agonizing. I despised the reroute process more. The sculpting was fun since this clay was so forgiving that I just fell in love with it more after working with it. After all the designs were sculpted and dried, I gave it a final sanding, of course outside and with gloves. All that's left of sculpting now are the scales. I wet the area with a brush and carved scale shapes, bigger on top and smaller as I descended. After that was done and dried, I gave the tail a coat of white glue which was of a lotion consistency, and after that dried, I sprayed it with fixative outside just lightly. The reroute is also done. Now I'll paint the tail. The tail is pink, but it has an undertone of purple, so the first layer will be purple. And then on top, I'll paint scale by scale, giving 2 coats of one tone and I used 3 tones of pink. I thought that the scale sculpting was exhausting, but the paint job had me cooked. But painting each scale did pay off, and it's adding to the 3-dimensionality of the tail design. After the scales, I painted the raised designs blue. I used 2 tones of blue, and after all painting was done, I gave some areas a very pearlized matte varnish, which looked shiny at first but matted down later. After it dried, I sprayed it with some fixative outside to finish it off, and then applied jewels and rhinestones off camera. I've cut out the base wood for the boulder that she'll be sitting on and sanded the edges rounder. I'll make the boulder with thermocol and newspaper all taped together. And then on top of that, I'll apply foamy clay to form the exterior. I'll take the tail imprint so she can sit properly. I sketched the crest of courage on her arm with pencils, and now I'm painting it with acrylics, and I'll give it a pearly varnish in the end as well. The face up. Same as usual, I'm sketching the basic shapes with a 3H pencil, and then I'll proceed with acrylic paints. I was trying something this time. I used pearly eyeshadows on the corner of her eyes to see what it'll do, and it wasn't a good idea, to be honest, because the acrylic layer on top was not setting onto the vinyl, and I had to redo one eye. And I was at the brink of crying at this point, but thankfully I persisted and it came together beautifully. I gave her nails using these holographic embellishments, cutting the finest shapes. I made her choker by painting a white ribbon blue and painting the flower motifs, and then gluing tiny rhinestones to give it a glow. I'm following the same hairstyle that she has on the front since it's longer hair, which I wasn't sure about, but most people voted for long hair on my poll that I posted a few days ago, and that's what I wanted, so it'll be a gorgeous style on the back. And now for the reveal! Oh my gosh, I couldn't be more happier with Nori, the first mermaid of this channel, so she's the mermaid queen here. I hope you liked the process, the end result. Share your thoughts in the comments if you can. Now the next video will be Mermaid Elina as she won, but don't forget to vote under this video between Duchess Rowena and Preminger, which will be a Halloween special coming after Mermaid Elina. With that said, thank you so much for watching, liking, and commenting. See you again very soon with Elina. Don't forget to vote, and peace.